But doesn't the Biden administration have to take some blame for the border, though? A lot of the blame? Because, I mean, the first 3 years, y'all did get a lot of things wrong with the border.
No, Charlamagne, look, I grew up in the middle class.
So tonight, Kamala Harris did a town hall with Charlamagne, which immediately piqued my interest because the last time a Democrat presidential candidate went on that platform, some interesting things went down. If we'll take a quick trip here down memory lane.
But I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
That comment that you made a week ago that appeared to take black voters for granted. In light of these horrible events of the last week, it's important for black voters to know which leader are you going to be?
The leader I've always been. I apologized immediately for responding to Charlamagne, who was baiting me. And if you looked at that film, you'll see I was smiling at him. And I was referring to him. I wasn't referring to all African Americans, but I should have never said it. I have never, ever, 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 ever taken the African American community for granted.
You know, I still cannot believe that really happened. If you ever needed a reason not to be complacent as a Trump supporter about this election, maybe remember the fact that that guy somehow assumed the presidency in January of 2021. But enough said about Joe Biden. Again, tonight, Kamala Harris went on Charlamagne's platform, and we'll tell you all about it here in a second. But first, folks, do us a big favor. If you enjoy the content, be sure to hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And why exactly should you subscribe? Because your subscription goes a long way in ensuring we can keep bringing you videos like this. And by the way, it is completely free and a great way to stay on top of the breaking news. All you got to do is hit that red button down below. And that said, as we've been talking about, Kamala Harris is kind of in desperation mode right now. She's trying to desperately change up her campaign because the current momentum is sitting in the favor of Donald Trump in terms of the polls, in terms of voter registration, etc. So let's see if Kamala or her messaging is anything different. Take a listen.
Why do you allow them to call you the Border Czar when that's not even that wasn't your
I'm
role?
not giving him permission for that.
Oh, you're right. But, but I mean, you don't push back on it because that wasn't your role.
Fact checkers have made that clear.
Really? Fact checkers have made it clear that you're not the Border Czar? Okay, then why don't you elaborate? You know, because this is a pretty common attack line by the Trump campaign that she's responsible for the border. She is responsible for the immigration crisis. So why not bring the receipts? Explain exactly what your role is and how that made you not the Border Czar. Oh, wait, Kamala Harris can't do it because she was indeed the Border Czar and invents here even more pathetic excuses when it comes to the immigration question. Take a listen.
But doesn't the Biden administration have to take some blame for the border, though? A lot of the blame? Because, I mean, the first 3 years, y'all did get a lot of things wrong with the border.
No, Charlamagne, within hours of being inaugurated, the first bill we passed before we did the Inflation Reduction Act, before we did the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, before we did the Safer Communities Act to deal with gun violence, first thing we dropped was a bill to fix the broken immigration system.
Yeah, just to answer Charlamagne's original question there, yes. Yes, the Biden-Harris administration has basically all of the blame for the border for the past 4 years. And that supposed fix to the immigration that they're talking about, the bill, was something that allowed the door for open amnesty, number one. And number two, was entirely unnecessary because all Biden had to do was keep in place the original Trump-era border restrictions. But it is what it is. Honestly, immigration, we get it by now. I'm not here to talk about that extensively. The most notable moment, however, from tonight's town hall was the part where Kamala Harris arguably crashed her entire campaign because Charlamagne's co-host asked her if she supports reparations, and her answer is just so bad on so many fronts. You literally cannot make this up. Take a listen.
My question to you is, what's your stance on reparations? We all know that America became great, you know, off the backs of free black labor. How progressive are you on making it a priority and righting America's wrongs?
First of all, that's just not true. Okay, that's not true. But anyways.
It's understood that you are running for president for all people of America. Asking for specifics for black communities doesn't mean don't do for others, but black Americans are heavily asked to vote Democrat in every election for over half a century with very little in return. What are your plans to address these very important issues and change that narrative?
Thank you, Zeke.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you for your work. So to your point, yes, I am running to be a president for all Americans. That being said, I do have clear eyes about the disparities that exist and the context in which they exist, meaning history, to your point.
The typical word salad. Okay, like, do we expect anything else? No, but I'm, very understanding of all the things that exist, and especially in the context of which they exist. All right, wonderful. Well, thank you for that, Kamala. That was very insightful. But anyways.
Right. So my agenda, well, first of all, on the point of reparations, it has to be studied. There's no question about that. And I've been very clear about that position. In terms of my immediate plan, I will tell you a few of the following. One, as it relates to the economy, which is a lot of what you have addressed. Look, I grew up in the middle class. My mother...
Oh my gosh. What it borders on satire, okay? This is the Saturday Night Live sketch. What are your thoughts on reparations? What is your plan? By the way, on the question of reparations, she says it should absolutely be studied, okay? So she more or less just came out in complete favor of it. That's what she's doing in the midst of her supposed rebranding as a moderate after trying to run as the most progressive candidate back in 2020. Kind of got cornered there on that question, in fairness, but still supporting reparations. And then there it was. Okay, we're winning the drinking game or whatever here because, ladies and gentlemen, what is her plan to fix the economy? There it is again. Kamala Harris grew up in a middle-class family.
Worked hard, raised me and my sister, and by the time I was in high school, she was able to afford our first home.
All right, so, again, if you're an American struggling economically, if you're a Black American, since that was the, subject of this question, who is, trying to make a better life for themselves, maybe comes from a tough background, never fear, ladies and gentlemen. Does Kamala Harris have a plan? No. But she does understand things that exist and especially the context in which they exist. And most of all, most importantly, once again, let her remind you that she grew up in a middle-class family, which is essentially the code word for I don't really have an answer to this question. Now, in total fairness, I do have to give their campaign a little bit of credit here. I'm impressed with the consistency, okay? The stubbornness really is kind of impressive because after being so ruthlessly mocked for this, I think even like Saturday Night Live was making fun of this every single time. I grew up in a middle-class family. I grew up in a middle-class family. Everyone is saying the same thing. Okay, what is your plan? That is an obvious platitude, but clearly they're so committed to the bit. They haven't told her to stop. In fact, you notice there, it's almost like she has to remember to say you're in a middle-class family.
Steve, look, I was raised in a middle-class family, all right?
Oh, here we go.
But anyways, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to downplay the bigger point here, which is on reparations. There's your proof, right? Kamala just exposed herself. She's not exactly running the moderate campaign that she claims to be. Now, in total fairness, a big reason they did this town hall to begin with is because they believe they're struggling. They're not really hitting their target margins with Black voters, and so maybe that's a way to appeal. But I'm just saying, kind of hard to rebrand yourself as a moderate, sensible candidate when that is what you go out there saying. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts on this in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.